Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog. And it's Sunday, so that means it's time for the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. What did we watch this week? Well, we started off the week with Lake Placid from 1999. We had actually ended the previous week with Anaconda, and then I told my kids about Lake Placid because they were like, can we watch another crazy creature feature? And I was like, oh, I've got a really good one for you. So we watched Lake Placid. This is the one about the enormous crocodile living in a lake in Maine, starring Bridget Fonda and Bill Pullman, but they're both pretty characters that, I don't know, does anyone care about these characters in this movie? I didn't. Oliver Platt and Betty White, though, steal the movie. They are both fantastic. Not really together fantastic, but each of their characters individually are awesome. And when either one of them is on screen, they are completely stealing the show from the other actors. What to say about Lake Placid? It's a creature feature. It's kind of stupid, but really fun. Giant crocodile in a lake, lots of great gory attack sequences and scary, suspenseful underwater swimming stuff, and what you want from a creature feature. Like I said when I was reviewing Anaconda last week, these aren't great movies by any stretch of the imagination, but when what you want is a goofy, kind of cheesy horror movie about a improbable natural giant creature or super vicious creature attacking, this is what you watch. So, Lake Placid, pretty stupid, but we thoroughly enjoyed it. It also has a great use of the half a guy trope at the very beginning of the movie. Fantastic use of that particular visual. So if you're the type of person who likes creature features, definitely want to check out Lake Placid if you haven't seen it. Now, I know there are several movies in the Lake Placid franchise and there's several movies in the Anaconda franchise, and they do actually cross over at one point. I haven't seen any of that. You guys let me know if you've seen any of those sequels. I've seen the first one in each. I thoroughly enjoyed the first one in each, but they were both just bad enough that I was like, okay, I don't need to watch any more of these, right? I'm sure you guys get that sentiment. The next night, I actually asked you guys to vote. We were having trouble deciding between some 80s sci-fi titles, and I was like, do we want to watch WarGames? And I was like, you guys vote for WarGames. That's my favorite. Or do we want to watch Back to the Future? And overwhelmingly, everybody that I polled was like, WarGames, oh my God, that's the one to watch. So that's the one we showed to the kids. Also, again, it was my vote. So I am the boss of Cinema Club around here. And even though other people get picks, it's kind of my pick almost every time, even when it's someone else's pick, if that makes sense. So WarGames, 1983, starring Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy. This is, of course, the one about the teenage hacker who accidentally, he's attempting to hack into the computer system of a video game company, but he accidentally hacks into like a Department of Defense supercomputer that's controlling missiles. And he thinks he's going to play a game with this computer, and he chooses global thermonuclear war as the game that he wants to play. Unbeknownst to him, he has actually set a real global thermonuclear war into effect, possibly, depending on if he can stop the computer from playing the game that the computer thinks that it's playing with him. Really fun, older sci-fi, really fun to look at older tech. Of course, showing it to my kids now and having to show them, a dial-up modem and these giant computers that take up an entire room. The actual visual computer that they create for the, it's called the Whopper, which is the name of the Department of Defense computer. It's got all these great like blinky lights and things you would never actually have in a real computer. But of course it's a movie computer, not a real computer. So it looks really cool. There's a lot of like really loud typing sounds and weird user interfaces with the computers. But the thing that struck me as being the really out of date kind of tech of the movie is when Matthew Broderick's character figures out kind of what's going on and he's trying to unravel the puzzle of what's happening. There's a whole montage where he has to do a bunch of research, and he has to actually leave his house and go to the library and go look up stuff on microfiche and go talk to different people and call them up and, go running all around town to do his research. And that was the part that blew my mind. I mean, at one point they show a rotary dial payphone, which is just so improbable. Even in 1983, I can't stand it. But really, the tech that was the kind of old tech was the run around town to do research instead of just being able to Google it and look it up on the internet. It really was like, wow, man, remember when you had to like go places to go find stuff out? Remember when you had to call places up? Know a research librarian who could help you out with answering your weird question? I remember that. That wasn't that long ago, but now it seems so foreign and strange that you would go running around all over the place to do all this first person research instead of just looking online, which of course you couldn't do back then. But it was interesting to me that that was the big kind of technological change that really impressed itself upon me while watching the movie. There's, of course, a bunch of really silly, improbable stuff that happens, but you just kind of suspend your disbelief for a little bit. And it's a really fun piece of early 80s sci-fi, tech-based, potentially dystopian, but maybe we pull back from it before the end of the movie. I don't want to say any spoilers if you guys haven't seen WarGames. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. If you have seen it, I would say go back and watch it again because it's probably been a while since you've seen it, and it was really fun for me to go back and watch it. I don't think I've seen it as an adult. I think the last time I watched it, I was about the age of the main characters in the movie, which is pretty fun. So it's cool to watch it several decades later from a totally adult perspective and be like, how does that mesh in or work with the storytelling? But fantastic movie, highly recommended from everyone over here. We all thoroughly enjoyed it. The next night after that was Wednesday, which of course around here is Western Wednesday, and we continued with our spaghetti westerns and watched For a Few Dollars More, directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef. Eastwood and Van Cleef are both bounty hunters, and they come into town and basically team up to infiltrate a notorious gang of robbers and then double cross them and get them so they can go get the bounty on them. It's fantastic. Similar to A Fistful of Dollars, it's beautiful. Every shot is incredibly well thought out, incredibly composed. There's these long shots that take a long time where if you're in an impatient mood, I could see how it would be maybe a little frustrating in terms of the storytelling. But if you are in the zone of watching the film, it's just incredible the way it kind of slows the pace down and really settles you into the story, and the again, just the slower pace of the way the story is told. Again, every shot is beautiful. Like I said last time, it's like watching a poem. They're just so gorgeously composed and well thought out and lit and colored and everything. And Clint Eastwood, of course, does a fantastic job. Very minimal amount of dialogue as usual. He does a lot of just conveying the story through actions and expressions and stuff like that. Lee Van Cleef is incredible in his role. Both of them come back together for the third movie in the trilogy. Lee Van Cleef playing another character in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's the one we're watching next week. I'm super excited about it. But if you've never seen For a Few Dollars More, it's kind of overlooked sometimes because a lot of people see A Fistful of Dollars, and of course, most people have seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly if you've seen any of these movies. And A Few Dollars More, it's kind of like the maybe kind of overlooked middle child right there in the middle of the trilogy. But it's incredible. We had a great time watching it. The kids absolutely loved it. The music, of course, Ennio Morricone is incredible. Just 2 thumbs way up, A+, however many stars out of however many stars you guys want to give movies. What are we on, 5, 10 scales? I don't know, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Love it. Incredible movie. I cannot wait to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly this week. It is absolutely one of my favorites. So that was Western Wednesday. The next night after that, the kids were like, we want to see a scary movie that's more current. And I was like, okay, I understand that. Most of the horror and thriller stuff that I show them is definitely older movies. And so we pulled out Green Room, which was the movie from 2015 that takes place here. Well, not here in Portland, but in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest. It's the story of a band who's touring through, and their show gets canceled, and so they get last minute added onto the bill at this show, which is at this like compound in the middle of the woods, and it's all neo-Nazi skinheads when they show up to the punk show. So they get a little in your face. They do a cover of Nazi Punks Fuck Off. They get booed for that. Then they play their set. Then they go back to the green room after they've played their set. They're waiting to get paid or whatever. And when they go in the green room, they accidentally witness the aftermath of a murder. And then the whole rest of the movie is them basically trying to escape from this compound where the neo-Nazis are keeping them to prevent them from going and running to the cops over this murder. And it is very suspenseful. It is very thrilling. It is gory in a few parts. It's not overly gory, but there are a couple of parts where, there is some prosthetic makeup that just hard to look at. There's a couple shots where it's like, I don't even want to say what happens to this person, but some very effective body horror in there. It's a great story. Patrick Stewart, I should say Sir Patrick Stewart, shows up about halfway through the movie as the owner of the club and the leader of the neo-Nazis, and he's pretty great and scary in that role. It's great. It's a great movie, period. But if you live in the Pacific Northwest, if you are currently a punk or have ever been a punk in your life, you will definitely appreciate this movie. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of body horror, definitely recommended. It's really, really great. It's really fun. But also, in a lot of parts. So it kind of takes you all over the place. It's got some really funny bits. It's got some high energy bits. It's got some very scary parts. But all in all, it's a really cool balance of all those things. So I really recommend it. Again, especially if you live here or you are a punk or punk adjacent, even in any way. It's going to be a really fun movie for you. We actually know several people who worked behind the scenes on the movie. We know our screen printer actually did a bunch of the tees for the people in the movie. They even got cease and desist letters from some bands for making bootleg tees for the movie. And we know a local tattoo artist who did some of the tattoos on people in the movie, stuff like that. So it's pretty fun, again, especially if you are Portland or Oregon local, and especially if you've lived here for a while and you remember the bad old days. You're really going to like this movie. So Green Room, 2015. The next night after that, to stick on a color theme, maybe, Sean chose Red Sonja for the kids, which was totally fun. We're huge fans of Conan around here, and Red Sonja is like the next chapter. It's not directly a sequel to the Conan movies, but Red Sonja is a Robert E. Howard character. You've got Dino De Laurentiis' production company making the movie. You've got the same director, I gotta look at my note, Richard Fleischer, who directed Conan the Destroyer. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in Red Sonja as, I can't remember the name of the character, but he's pretty great. And Sandahl Bergman, who was in the first Conan movie, is also in this one. So it's basically your friends who brought you the two Conan movies coming together again to make Red Sonja, which is starring Brigitte Nielsen in an incredible mullet wig. Can we just talk about the Red Sonja mullet wig just for a second? I mean, her whole outfit is amazing, but that wig, that is a great wig. It's a really fun, totally cheesy, lots of bad acting, but totally fun. What do they call it? Sword and Sandal instead of Sword and Sorcery movie. If you are a fan of Conan in any capacity, you love Red Sonja automatically. It's just totally fun. It's cheesy. And like I said, there's some bad acting in it and there's some sloppy writing, whatever. But I mean, the costumes, the swordplay, the adventure, the sets, the plot's a little thin there. There's this thing, it's called the Talisman, but I keep wanting to call it the Lochnar because it looks just like that glowing Lochnar from Heavy Metal. And I feel like Red Sonja is like Heavy Metal adjacent. So they're right there together anyhow. So this is like a cult of women, and they've got this talisman that if men touch it, they get destroyed. Kind of like, if you open the trunk in Repo Man, same type of effect as what happens to men who touch the talisman. But the female cultists and priestesses and bad characters can all touch the talisman without getting destroyed. And then they use the talisman as like a secret weapon to destroy a city and to wreak havoc on their enemies. And Red Sonja has sworn a vow she's got to go destroy the talisman so that the evil queen is going to lose her power, and she's going to like do it by herself. But then Arnold's character tags along behind her, and he winds up helping out. They pick up a couple of other really fun side characters along the way, and it's just a really fun adventure. At the end, there's a lot of like weird, like sort of crushing stuff, and like Arnold like holding things up so people don't get crushed. And there's like a crack of doom, Mount Doom, sort of like, let's throw the thing in the hot lava to destroy it moment. So you got kind of like all your fantasy tropes sort of wrapped into one, really nice Conan sort of package with this Red Sonja movie. So again, if you like Conan, if you like any of those types of fantasy movies, if you're an Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, obviously this is a good choice. Red Sonja, 1985. We loved it. It's great fun. Again, don't expect high art or an amazing film here, but if what you want is cheesy fun with swords and battling armies and stuff like that, great costumes, Red Sonja. We loved it. And then we ended our week last night actually with a really funny one, Rubber from 2010. Have you guys seen this movie? It's an independent movie. It's in English, but it's actually a French film about a homicidal tire. I don't really want to say more than that, but I have to kind of pique your interest a little bit more if you haven't seen it. In addition to being about a homicidal tire, it also has this really interesting storytelling format where at the beginning of the movie, there are a couple people introducing a live audience in the movie to the movie that you're about to watch. And then all of the audience that's in the movie gets binoculars and they're watching the movie take place from inside of the movie, which is pretty fun. And again, as you know from my previous vlog episodes, I love any type of narrative that messes with that kind of like, what layer of reality are you on? Are you in the audience in the movie? Or are you in the audience watching the movie? Is there another audience behind that audience watching me? Are you guys the audience watching me, watching the audience, watching the movie, in the movie? Uh-oh, I already lost track. Anyhow, it's a really fun trope. They use it to really good effect in Rubber. Maybe the best that I've ever seen in a movie that has that type of stuff in it. They break the fourth wall a lot because of it, but it's really effective and it works really well. The tire itself, which has a name, but I can't remember what the tire's name is supposed to be, is a charming character. It's quite amusing how much personality and kind of, I don't know if charisma is the right word, but the tire really has something, and you're not going to be bored watching a full-length movie that is literally about a tire. It's a really fun, weird story. And again, the way that the levels of audience or non-audience or who's watching what and how is this unfolding is really fun. There is a bonus scene that runs during the end credits. So I do recommend that you watch that as well because it gives you another little twist on what you just watched. It's a really fun movie. Rubber, 2010. You guys will really like it. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to say it's for everybody because it's definitely weird, but if you like weird, if you like a little bit gory, if you like lightly thoughtful but not very thoughtful, you guys will like this one a lot. So Rubber, recommending it for you. That's it. That's what we watched this week. I am not sure what we have coming up next week, except again, I know we're watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on Wednesday, which I'm super excited about, as you guys know. What did you guys watch this last week? I'm always curious to find out. What do you have plans for coming up? Anything next week? Let me know down in the comments there, or drop me an email, katie@goblinco.com, or find me on one of my other social media platforms and hit me up there. Anywhere is a good place to talk to me. You guys know I always love those comments. So I will be back in a couple more days with another episode of my vlog. I've already learned a lesson from myself. I'm not going to say what I'm putting on a future episode. You're just going to have to stay tuned and find out. Until then, you guys stay safe and take care. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.